fucking tired. All right.
Yeah,
Hello.
we're recording at 10 a.m. for Jared.
Huh? Yeah, it is.
Poor guy.
It is 10 a.m. That's very early for me. Hello to all our paid members and our free members. Thank you so much for supporting the new show. We just wanted to put a little reminder in audio form that what was formerly the Turn Leftist podcast is now True Crimes of Empire. True Crimes of Empire is a true crime style podcast exploring the history of imperialism. So it's like a history podcast mixed with a true crime podcast. The first season, which there's a few episodes out already, about 4 or 5, we're explaining the history of South Africa, apartheid, and the dismantling of the system. If you haven't updated already or weren't aware, we have 2 tiers of support. The $7 tier is called True Criminal, and that unlocks the longer episodes of the show, which feature the hosts, that's me, talking about current events and news, as well as cracking a lot of jokes. The $1 tier is the We Love You tier, and this is a donation tier. It doesn't unlock the longer episodes, but we really appreciate when people just give us $1 because any amount of money helps with the costs of the show, etc. Standard episodes are free, and they always will be free. The regular episodes are just for true crime content. They don't have the current news and events, but I strongly recommend the longer episodes because they're more fun. Anyway, if you'd like to upgrade your membership tier, you can do it via the Patreon app or the Patreon website. And as always, we're very grateful for your support.
And I also wanted to ask if, please, people could just tell a friend, people who are just listeners to the free feed or the paid feed, if you know someone else who is feeling the same way you feel in this late stage capitalism that we're living in. There's very few anti-imperialist voices out there. So please tell someone else, leave us a review somewhere on the internet, write something positive if you could. It actually does help us get into more people's ears. So thank you.
There we go. Nice.
Okay. Makes you guys so small, though.
Yeah.
Now what happens if I share a screen? Let's try this out. So it just takes up more of the screen, which is, I guess that's fine. It's whatever.
I think that makes it easier for making shorts and reels and things like that.
That's cool. Yeah, I just had that stuck in my head before we got on.
Nice.
That's
awesome.
So far, we've had like pretty news-heavy weeks where we've just been able to get on and just like jump into it, and like there have just been things going on all the time. But like today, I'm thinking it's like they just they brought out Luigi and like the perp walk. But what were we gonna say before I get into that, Jared?
Oh, I was gonna say they we had that comedian that we can rip into.
Oh yeah, you want to do that?
Oh yeah.
Are we recording now? I don't. Oh yeah, we are.
Yeah, we are.
Right. All right. Well, okay. Well, I guess we'll just start with this stupid fuck-ass comedian who I found out about, who I actually thought I knew this comedian, but I don't. I knew the person who shared his post and promptly unfriended them on all social media
okay.
as soon as they shared this post. So I don't actually know this comedian, but regardless, I'm going to anonymize him.
Wait, why though? He has like a public presence. Like I feel like we don't need to do that. Like the guy's trying to get his stuff out there, right?
We can just go on his account then. Fuck him.
Yeah.
He's a big account. Yeah.
I don't see the need to like protect bigots, especially if they're like doing their bigotry on a public persona. It's like their comedy routine. Like
the only reason I wanted to was because I thought I knew him personally, and I didn't want him to like dox me or some shit because he was from my city. But like, turns out that was just the person, another comedian who shared his post. So people are not aware I used to be a comedian. That's about as
used to be.
Great. Used to be. Yeah.
I think you're still pretty funny, Jared.
Thank you. Much appreciated. I'm my best. I'm just trying to fucking find where he is.
You're the funniest Aussie that I know.
Well, that's an extremely low bar to
I know we have that channel in the Discord. It was fuck this jackass. And
yeah, I didn't put the link in there for some reason.
Because
I only put the stuff that anonymizes him.
Oh, I see. You were too nice.
Yeah.
Yep. So what was he talking about? He was talking about like porn stars. Like he was talking about Mia Khalifa or something.
Mostly talking about Mia Khalifa, but in like the worst way possible. Like not in like it's like
not like in a.
The only time I've had any kind of cause or reason to talk about Mia Khalifa was in the last year because she came out as like an outspoken critic of Israel and was like for Gaza and Palestine, and I was like, oh, okay, cool, like unexpected ally there, but like, or I guess maybe not unexpected because I just didn't know anything about her. Only unexpected to me. Like I only knew of her as a name because of like, do you guys remember the Mia Khalifa song that went viral like in 2014 or something? Yeah, that's the one. that's how I knew who she was. Like,
hit or miss song.
Yeah, hit or miss. Thank you.
I remember seeing a video of these like 10-year-old, 9-year-old boys, and they like
Starting
said
off strong,
something-
talking about the porn star. Let's see where it goes.
Oh my god, dude, it was worse. I if I can find it, I'll play it later on. But like, it was literally some 10-year-old boys, and they were like, "Bro, she looked like Mia Khalifa, man."
Oh no.
And it's like, oh my god,
Yeah, that's
you guys need to be
People have-
off the internet.
people have access to pornography way too early. I think pornography is bad for everyone, but like it's especially bad for like kids. I remember when
Developing
I was
minds.
when I was in high school, not in high school, in primary school, right? Because I grew up in that weird period where for the first half of my childhood, flip phones, regular little phones, and then second half of my childhood, teenage years, iPhones and stuff like that, like smartphones. So the first
Same here.
half, all through primary school or what you guys would call elementary school, completely dodged that any access to like pornography or seeing pornography. Completely dodged it because I only had a computer, but I had to use the family computer, and I could only use it for a set period of time, and it was out there. And then- so I completely dodged porn when I was in elementary school, and then in
Good.
high school I had a flip phone for like the first 2 years, and then I got, when I was like 14, 15, that's when I got a smartphone,
Uh-oh.
my own computer for schoolwork and stuff like that, or playing video games mostly. And that was my first exposure to pornography. So that's like, at the very least, I was able to, just because of the technology at the time and because my parents are really good and knew that the internet and computers are not a good thing for people,
Yeah,
especially for kids, my access was put off till at least I was like 14 or 15. And by then, I think that's a little bit better than like being exposed to it when you're fucking like a 10-year-old.
Yeah.
I think,
Yeah.
at the very least. Anyway, but like kids these days are just growing up and they have access to it. As Joseph said, like 10-year-olds.
days.
As Joseph said that, yeah, kids who are 10 are talking about 10-year-olds shouldn't know who Mia Khalifa is.
No.
Right.
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
only know about her because she's my favorite Lebanese anti-Israel activist. That's the only reason I know about her.
I mean, I was
yeah.
definitely aware that she was a porn star before, but like,
Yeah, I
now
knew
that,
she
like-
was as well.
yeah, I mean, there's like no shortage of porn stars who have like good takes when it comes to politics. I mean, I'm sure there's plenty who have bad ones too, but like being in the sex trade, like encountering patriarchy at its most brutal forms, it's like, yeah, it's no surprise that they're going to understand at a gut level a lot of these proletarian struggles, right? I had another thing I wanted to say real quick, and I can't remember what the fuck it was. It's gonna drive me nuts though. I saw you have like
Yeah.
the thing ready to go up.
Yeah. I was just going to say one more thing about Mia is after she got out of porn, she has a very good view of the porn industry that she's been very public about, where I'm pretty sure her career as a porn star, like she was the most well-known porn actress in the world, but her career only went for like 6 months or something. Like it was very short. And on average, people who do pornography only do it for about 3 months. Women usually. The men who get in stick around. You notice the men are always like bald fucking creeps. Like, anyway, so she actually came out and she said, she was like, I didn't make that much money in my 6-month career. She was like, I only made like a few $1,000s, and she was the #1 porn star in the world. And it's like, God damn, I would have thought you'd be a millionaire or something from that. And it's like, no, they get paid. They don't even get paid very well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah. Absolute
they
shit.
get-
Yeah, and of course, you know, the right wing takes that and they're like, oh, you see, it's like these 5 Jewish people at the top, and the fact that they're Jewish is like, it's not the fact that they're billionaires, it's not the fact that they're business owners, it's not the fact that they're capitalists, it's not the fact that they're running predatory industries that rely on patriarchal oppression of women and non-men. No, it's just the fact that they're this one outgroup that you don't like. It's like, that's what they always go to every time because they're stupid, lower cognitive ability people. But let's get into this comedian since we're getting on these right-wing assholes
Yep.
tangentially.
So this guy's called, I just came across this comedian because a comedian I know in my local scene shared this asshole.
Nice.
And I was like, oh, I wonder what this is. Anyway, his name's like Ronan Hirschberg or something. I don't know who this guy is. He's like some American. Anyway, so he made this like horrendous post. Look at this fucking shit. Look, what is this? What is, like, he's just
morbidly
being,
Jewish.
He's just being anti-Semitic to himself or something. Like, what is this? Like, come on, man.
That's weird.
Anyway, this is the post that he made that I took issue to. And look, there's my comment. I liked my own
Beautiful.
comment, whatever. 14 likes on that comment. So should we just read this stupid fucking post?
I feel like I may have seen this guy before. Can you play like just one of his regular videos so I can see his face?
Oh, do you want to see the balanced Israel-Palestine joke?
Oh, God.
Oh
It's
no.
hard to read an objective book about Israel. It turns out the book I read by Yehuda Ben Schwartzberger has a very different perspective than the one by Mohammed Zahid. Here's a new rule. No Jew or Muslim should write a book about Israel, okay? We need to get a Filipino to write a book about Israel.
Yeah, fuck that guy. That's stupid. Yeah, don't let Palestinians write about their country being stolen from them. Don't let that happen. You fucking asshole.
Yeah, this guy's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's a fucking piece of shit. Anyway, this post that we're about to read made me so fucking angry that I blocked a bunch of comedians who shared it, who I knew personally. Anyway, so this is the post. So we were just talking about Mia Khalifa in relation to her anti-Israel and pro-Palestinian activism. And remember, Mia is is Mia Khalifa her real name? I don't know if that's her real name or not.
I have no idea.
I'm pretty sure it's a stage name.
Oh, I don't know what her fucking real name is. We should find that out. Anyway, so I'll just call her Mia Khalifa for now. She's Lebanese. Her family's from Lebanon. They have their Christian Lebanese background, and she's been very outspoken in support of Palestine. And just reminder, Lebanon just got invaded by Israel, and they attempted to do genocide in Lebanon as well, and of course failed because the Lebanese were able to, fight back and kicked Israel out of their country. Alrighty, so this is the post. In search of a porn star with a nuanced view of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. All right, any comments, boys, on that title?
I don't know how you can really be nuanced when you're framing it as like, I've already kind of swept through it just a little bit, and this guy's just a fucking raging asshole.
I will just comment on the word nuance and say that every time I've heard the word nuance in the last year, it's someone making excuses for the Zionist or white nationalist point of view on some kind of geopolitical event. But let's see where this goes.
Also, really quick, her real name is Sarah Jo Shamoun.
Okay.
Like,
I'll call her
Sarah Jo.
So I'll call her Sarah then. Okay, first slide. All right. Last year pay very close attention to the sort of language he uses. Last year during the October 7 massacre, the Lebanese porn star Mia Khalifa sent out a tweet asking for the Hamas terrorists to flip their phone horizontally to get a better view of the carnage. This was really hard for me to hear, not as a Jew, but as a big fan of her previous work. In a way, I felt like I knew Mia, so her tweets couldn't help leave me feeling betrayed. And I know they say one has to try and separate the artist from the collection of hardcore porn they engage in on a regular basis, blah, blah, blah. Yeah,
what a fucking goon. What an asshole.
Yeah, I know. Just admitting to be a gooner as well on like your posts, it's like gross, dude.
Brother,
First of all, if you have a favorite porn actress or actor, or if you can name more than like two well-known porn actors or actress, and you talk about whose work is better and whose work isn't, you need psychiatric help. You need to be put in a fucking mental health unit. You need gooner detox, dude. You need
to go to the gooner psych ward.
Yeah, you need to go to the gooner psych ward. You need to touch grass. You need to go get a girlfriend. You need to get a girlfriend or a boyfriend or something, please, for the love of Christ.
Just talk to a regular human being just once.
Yes.
Just once in your life.
Please.
And like you were saying, Mike, about the word nuanced being used, you're so right, because anything that happens in Palestine in regards to Israel and the IDF, it's not nuanced. It's very clear who is in the right and who is in the wrong. It's like,
I've recently seen it employed in it was actually fucking McBride the other day in my DMs. I think I put the screenshot of the Discord. He was like, you just won't have any kind of nuanced take on Syria. I'm like, what nuance is there to have? This is exactly like Iraq all over again. This is exactly what we said would happen if you overthrow this person that was inconvenient for U.S. interests to be there, and now it's devolved into chaos and sectarian violence committed by a bunch of literal ISIS actors, and we said this would happen. The tankies were right yet again, and a bunch of U.S. Empire simps just fell in line, as they always do, and now you guys are mad. Like, I don't understand what's to be angry about here. Like, you just should have learned. Like, this was not a hard lesson.
That guy he's a Fed. I'm convinced. He's a honeypot.
I don't think that they even are paid. Like, I believe that they're just genuinely doing this out of the goodness of their heart. Their hearts just are white nationalist in nature. Like, they just come from America. They haven't shed enough of their patriotism, and they're willing to believe the State Department when it comes to Russia or China or Iran, because they are xenophobic at heart. And that's a shame. It's a shame, because those are the big leftist influencers. That's what you get. And that's why I'm feeling the way I feel about the left in the West anymore. It's just like, it's a bad state. It's not a bunch of good actors here.
Yeah.
So
Especially
you can see,
this fucking guy.
Oh. yeah, you can see here. So she's like calling October 7th a quote unquote massacre, and she's calling Hamas terrorists. Hamas, who by the way are the legitimate government of the Gaza Strip. They're not. I don't think definitionally you can even be a terrorist if you are a state, because they are a state actor. So like they're the government of the Gaza Strip. So they're not. Yeah. Anyway, so and calling October 7th a massacre as well, very interesting, because yeah, it was a massacre, you know, of let's have a look at the videos of the we should have a look at the videos of all the Israeli Apache helicopters and tanks which were just shooting random trucks and cars. We'll never know how many people Israel killed on that day, but let's just say Hamas were not the only people doing a massacre on October 7th.
I don't think there's any evidence to support that Hamas killed more Israelis than Israel did themselves at this point.
Yeah, I mean,
Probably.
what was the Hannibal Directive?
Yep. It was a mass Hannibal event.
Yep.
Yeah, the Hannibal Directive. And then also very interesting that you'll see in this post it has no mention of what happened after October 7th. Interesting how he never refers to the widespread bombing of Gaza and the genocide of Palestinians as a massacre either. Very interesting that he doesn't mention that. Anyway, so he's like, I was facing a real moral dilemma. How could I continue masturbating to this woman as she's being gangbanged by an entire college basketball team and still feel like I was doing the right thing? The answer is reluctantly, but the penis has more tribal allegiance than you might expect. So like this guy is not, you know, she's a human being, right? Like Mia Khalifa, or Sarah rather, is like, she's a human being capable of having opinions. You don't have to talk about her like she's a fucking slab of meat every time you bring her up in a conversation.
I mean, that's how he's consumed her as a person. So
you're just white knighting for her, bro. Hope she sees this, bro. I'm joking around.
So guys, I soon found myself returning to the Jewish heritage I had turned my back on for so long, by which I mean I started masturbating exclusively to the Israeli porn star Chemda Shoshana Braka Cha-Cha-Cha-Cha-Cha.
I mean, again, being like anti-Semitic, like
yeah.
Like I wouldn't even do that if I wanted to make fun of Israelis. Like if I wanted to like make a joke, like obviously I've been making spicy memes lately. If I wanted to make a joke making fun of Israeli people, I would have to make up some kind of Jewish name, right? But then like that's going to sound like I wouldn't do it, because right there I'm like crossing the line. I'm going to sound anti-Semitic. Like I don't know how you make fun of Israelis specifically without sounding like you're making fun of Jewish people, unless you just do in satire form the things that Israelis do that are so horrific, which is just like what they do, which is mocking the fact that they're doing a genocide. Like they laugh about the fact they're killing kids. They laugh about these people not having water. Like since day one, they've been laughing about the atrocities they've been committing, or just the ones that have been committed in their name. They love that shit. So it is easy enough to mock Israelis without having to resort to this level. But of course, if you got this brain that this guy's got, I don't know.
Yeah. Also, this guy's such a fucking gooner. It's like, why did you have to make up an Israeli porn star? Couldn't you find one? I'm sure they exist. Like, find a Israeli porn star that you can name by name, and
or just like that's a good joke right there, but like there aren't any because they're just not hot enough. They're ugly. Like it's like of course there are some, but like just that's a good joke. Like go from there.
Yeah. Although I hate being ideological when it comes to pornography, I found myself enjoying Chemda's work quite a bit. She was a big fan of BDSM, and then in brackets he defines it, though not so much a fan of BDS, boycott, divest, sanction. Ha ha ha.
Womp womp. Waka waka. You guys.
Very funny. Her work really said. Yeah, I know. I'll tell you what, this is why I got so fucking pressed over it yesterday, dude. I was fired up yesterday.
I think you got fired up because you thought this was somebody you knew. I think if you had just found this randomly, you would have skipped over it. You'd be like, oh, yeah.
Yeah. But now that but regardless, here we are, and now it's time to just dunk on this stupid fucking comedian. Her work really spoke to me and helped me fill the void left by Mia. But then a couple of months later, I was performing at a comedy fundraiser in Manhattan that Chemda also happened to be on, because hot girls are now doing stand-up, which is cultural appropriation.
Cultural appropriation joke.
I mean, that might be like the closest thing to a joke he's had in this whole thing is like hot people shouldn't do comedy. Like
he's also just like letting loose his belief that women can't do comedy as well. Like that's a common thing.
Oh, that's a less funny version of the joke.
Yeah, he's basically saying women can't do comedy, and it's bad that they're coming in and doing it.
No, attractive people can't do comedy because they are socialized at an early age, and they learn how to get along with people, and they don't become social outcasts, and then turn that on the rest of society in the form of satirical comedy. It's not a mystery.
Well, you only and then it's like it reinforced for men as well that women can't be funny as well. So like I found a bunch of really funny comedians, like women comedians on Instagram, and I follow them, and they're very, very funny. And there's this skit group in New York that are all women. They've got one bloke, but they're all women. And their skits are really funny, and it's all about like women's stuff. But even I watch it and I think it's really funny, even though I can't like relate to it. I'm like, this is actually really funny. Like there's one girl who like she holds up her dress and it's like tiny because she's like really small, and she's like, oh my god, this is so huge, I can't fit it. Oh, does anyone else want this? And then one of the other girls who's like a bit taller, like a bit larger, she's just like giving her the side eye, like, you fucking bitch. It's like, it's so funny. She's like, oh my god, I'm so tiny, I can't fit in anything. I was like, this is so funny. I can't relate to this at all, but it's so fucking funny. Oh, sorry. What I was going to say is, you go under any those skits, subjectively very funny. Go under the skit, look at all the comments, and it's just these fucking incel losers, pieces of shit. All the comments are just them being like, "Women can't be funny."
The same thing over and over again because they are so funny.
Yeah.
When WOMs try to be funny.
Yeah.
What's a WOM?
A WOM, a wham. Walking tits. I don't know.
Is that what they call? They call them WOMs?
What? Yeah, dude. I've heard femoid, WOM.
Okay, that would have seen.
Yeah.
Yeah,
just like
I count on you guys to keep me up with the
stuff ever.
terms. I'm getting older by the minute.
Yeah, I keep forgetting you're in your late 60s.
Yeah,
I try not to keep up with the fucking incel lingo, except for Marcel, which I thought was really fucking funny.
that was great. Actually, the thing, like trying to make fun of Bad Empanada for being a Marxist, it's like what? Like
This anti-anime Marcel. Oh my god, that guy's
make
a
him
whole
sound
other.
better.
Yeah, that's a whole other subject. Oh my god.
So after the event, I nervously approached her at the bar and told her how much her work meant to me. And then we started talking. It was an amazing conversation until the question of Palestinians was brought up, and she, without hesitation, referred to them as animals and said they don't deserve their own homeland. Never meet your heroes. It was funny. You probably could have found a real Israeli porn star who would have said this.
Oh yeah,
Like
Which
probably
is
every single
any
one.
Israeli.
Yeah, it's like
Gross.
It's like you didn't need to make someone up to. That's actually very interesting. So she picks Mia Khalifa, who's a real person, who said what she said about October 7, but then he decides to make someone up to say something horrible about Palestinians. Very interesting that you don't go and find a real Israeli to say something horrible about Palestinians, because like you would be able to just pick any fucking Israeli out of a hat.
Yeah.
Did he make this person up? Is that what I'm
they're
getting?
not a real
at?
person.
Oh god. What the fuck? Yeah, because of the made up name earlier, right?
Yeah, he just
Yeah.
went so detailed on it for so long that you start to think, you forget that was a thing, and you're like, wait, is he still talking about that same made up name?
Yeah.
This was worse than when I found out Woody Allen had left Mia Farrow for her daughter Spoon Yee, as I refer to the scandal, proof that Jews will stop at nothing to marry Asian women. Cool.
Huh?
It's like, who is that? It's like double racist. Like,
I guess it's a joke
yeah.
within the Jewish community,
mm.
but like bringing up Woody Allen, that's all I can say about that.
Yeah, not great
Yeah,
either.
I'm struggling to find one, the humor in this, and two, I can't fucking relate to that either. You know what I mean? Like that's just so. The most that I can relate to is masturbating sometimes.
I'm gonna come.
But like, this is just so beyond the pale of weird, crazy bullshit that you find people fucking say online. This guy he seems like a guy who lives in his mom's basement who somehow got his career catapulted into comedy. You know what I mean? Like he accidentally made his way there by just being a fucking chud.
Mm.
Well, look at the next paragraph. He just says a slur for little people, straight up. Just says a fucking bigoted slur for little people. So how could I continue masturbating to this woman when she's getting bukkakied by a bevy of little people dressed in dominatrix attire, while her husband watches gagged and bound in a car? Fucking whatever. So she's referring to people with dwarfism or other, disabilities as dwarves, which is just a fucking slur. So very cool comedian. Awesome. You already know the answer to this question, but after a while, I just couldn't do it anymore. Find out we are better people than we think we are, blah, blah, blah. So I began scouring the internet for a porn star who had an actual nuanced view of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. There's no such thing as an Israeli-Palestinian conflict. There's the colonization and genocide of Palestine. That's what it is. There's no it's not you're implying that it's like a even saying it's an Israeli-Palestinian conflict is like saying, I don't know, fucking World War II or something, where you have different states fighting
the
each other.
Jewish-German conflict.
Yeah, it's like saying the Jewish-German conflict. Exactly.
Wild.
Yeah.
The Native American and the indigenous
And
people
Mexican
of America.
conflict,
And,
like-
yes, exactly. It's so I'm cringing. I don't know if I can express that enough over video.
I mean, I was still
or
cringing
audio.
about I was still sidetracked because he was talking about how Jewish people keep going after Asian women, and I'm like,
yeah, like what the.
and I'm like, does every race fetishize Asian people and then also make jokes about it among themselves? Because I've known white people do that all the time. It's a known thing that fucking trashy white people are weebs who fetishize Asian women, and it has sprung out of the fetishization of fascism in the US that again, it took me a long time to learn where that all sprung out of, but that's how it got here. It's because the US was always tied with Japan and then demonized China. So then you get anime and the fetishization of the fascistic Japanese culture because it's a client state of the US, literally. Same as South Korea. It's that's why the US has such friendly relations and cultural ties to that, but then demonizes China so much, even though there's so many cultural similarities between those other countries.
They're the good Asians,
No, that's exactly what it is. It literally is the model minority.
Yeah, so fucking gross.
So he wants a take. He's like, a nuanced view of the Israeli-Palestinian conflict instead of one blinded by tribalism, dogma, and prejudice. Like, yeah, bro. The Palestinians are so blinded by tribalism and dogma and prejudice when they say they don't want their land stolen from them.
And their
Doesn't
entire
ought to be
people killed.
victims of genocide. Yeah. This turned out to be a difficult task. For one, this is not a category on Pornhub, though surprisingly, Pornhub does have a category, girls with a comprehensive view of the Soviet Union collapse and big clits. Ha ha. Ha 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 ha.
The fuck?
Ha 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 ha. So funny. Fuck, I hate this guy. Desperate to find this elusive porn star, I remember paying to watch a woman on a webcam at one point. That's fucking tragic. You should never admit that publicly.
Oh my god.
I mean, I would say, hot take, if you're going to watch someone on a webcam, you should pay them at least.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
No, I just mean
Yeah.
don't admit that you've
Oh, yeah,
you've
then don't say
gone
that
on
out
cam
loud.
sites. It's so funny. What would you like me to do, honey? She asked. I would like you to place that silver butt plug up your butt and then sit on that big. Then, what is your historical interpretation of the Oslo Accords?
I mean, okay,
yeah,
that's a joke that we
Sweet.
might make.
yeah, that's reasonably funny. Her answer was disappointingly reductive. I by no means want to truck in the hurtful stereotype that porn stars are not well educated. You've been doing that this entire post
Yeah, it's
when
like
you
this
attack
whole
Mia
thing.
Khalifa.
Yeah.
But she often confused the Oslo Accords with the Camp David Accords. Brother, you don't know what those are. You don't fucking know what those are. You're a dumb, stupid
You
fucking
Googled
LA
Israel-Palestine
Canadian.
conflict and saw those keywords and put them in.
I soon gave up on my quest. It's been 5 months now since I've watched porn. I'm glad you've undergone some character development and a lesson.
Oh my
of being-
god.
It hasn't been too terrible. Instead of going on Pornhub, I now just masturbate to the faded memories of all the beautiful, sexy women I used to watch on Pornhub. But don't give in to despair. Call me an optimist, but I still believe that one day in the near future, I will be wanking to a porn star with a balanced view of the Israeli-Palestine conflict. A porn star, okay, here's a key line that really got me good. A porn star who can hold both Netanyahu and Hamas accountable. A porn star who can condemn the illegal settlements in the West Bank, but also the blatant anti-Semitism on the left.
Oh no. This
Yeah,
guy's such a
Hamas-
fucking cuck.
Yeah, I know. Because Netanyahu, of course, is the only issue with Israel, as we know.
Yeah, it's not the whole fucking history and subtler colonial society, you know? It's just him. It's just Bibi. Whatever the fuck.
Those we hold Hamas accountable, and it's like you've been bombing them and killing them en masse. It's like, how much more accountable do you want to hold Hamas?
And not even
Um,
Hamas. The fact that most of the people that have been killed were just normal fucking civilian Palestinians. Hamas is the catch-all term for every person that's not Israeli. You know what I mean?
Mm. It's like when-
just, yeah.
When Hila Klein was talking to her husband, Ethan, on that podcast about her time in the IDF, and she referred to Jenin as a, quote, terrorist city.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wild.
And it's like, so it's just every non-Israeli, every single Palestinian to you, Hamas fighter. The answer is yes. That's what they think.
According to the IDF, yeah, because they'll shoot children and say, we have sources. We have their WhatsApp records that say that this 5-year-old child was actually training to be part of Hamas. And it's just like the most insane, batshit crazy justifications for genocide ever, you know?
It's wild.
So And then he says, a porn star who cannot turn away from the immense horrible suffering in Gaza, but that also doesn't feel the need to criticize Jews for being worried about anti-Semitism. So the death of 200,000 Palestinians is the moral equivalence to criticizing Jews who are safe in Western countries for being worried about anti-Semitism that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
That just doesn't fucking exist. I'm sorry, but it just doesn't.
He's just trying to justify a fucking ethno-state. That's the whole thing.
But even if it did exist, right? So even if the left was anti-Semitic, which it isn't, but even if the left was anti-Semitic and anti-Zionists were anti-Semitic, which they're not, still not on the same level of being bad as killing 200,000 people for being Palestinian.
Yeah.
It's just not.
That's like when people like point out that like there's a group of some black people and then somebody yelled kill whitey. It's like, okay, that's just funny, but also you're going to compare that one instance of supposed quote unquote racism to the systemic racism that black people have to undergo, where like, you know, they just asked a couple years ago to not be killed for the most minor infraction or for doing nothing wrong at all. And an entire culture of police worship sprung up in response to that BLM and said, actually, blue lives matter. Actually, blue lives matter. Even though people can stop being police, people cannot stop being black. Blue lives matter as well. That's how fascist this country is. That's how racist it is. But we'll pretend that there's any kind of like both sidesing of this at all. Like,
Yeah.
It's fucked up.
Are we the baddies?
Going on, a porn star who understands the paradox that is Israel, a country that is viewed by Jews as a safe haven before, during, and after the Holocaust, and by Palestinians as a land they were displaced from. That's not a view. That's just a fact. They were displaced from it.
Yeah.
And also, Israel is not a safe haven for Jews. Like, Israel is probably the least safe place a Jew can go in the world.
Yeah. What about all the Hasidic Jews, like the hardcore Orthodox Jews that have been beaten down by the fucking police, by the IDF in Israel itself for not
Refusing to be conscripted.
exactly for refusing to be conscripted into the fucking army. Like, they are anti-Semitic to their own population as a state.
Yeah. And the other thing as well is like Israel is not a safe place for Jewish people at all. It's probably the least safe place for you to go because it's a fucking active, it's always been an active war zone.
no, actually, it's
because
very
Israel's-
safe. If you are a hardcore Zionist, you should go there right away.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. All Zionists in the world.
Yeah, but it's a country, all jokes aside, it's a country that's just been constantly doing wars of aggression, constantly been doing genocide. And as a result of its wars of aggression and genocide is in retaliation to that, it's been not particularly safe for the people who live there either. Like Nazi Germany wasn't a real safe place for Nazis to live, especially when the war started turning against them. Like, it was like, once the Allies started bombing Germany, wasn't a safe place for Nazis either.
It was safe in the General Motors factories, though, because American fucking multinational corporations had factories in Berlin and Dresden and other places, and they ended up being bomb shelters, basically, for the local population, because the Allies told their own bombers, hey, don't bomb those places. Those are actually our companies, but kill everybody else.
Jesus.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Going on, in other words, a porn star who can recognize the humanity in Israelis and Palestinians while also acknowledging the religious fanaticism that is poisoning both sides of this awful conflict.
Both sides. There it is.
Both sides, man. It's such a shame. What can you do?
It's got nothing to do with religion or religious fanaticism.
Dude, what if a Palestinian tries to eat my baby?
Yeah.
You know?
Maybe the dingo ate your baby. What?
Won't anybody think about the Israelis?
I heard they beheaded the babies and then they ate the babies and then they played soccer with the babies' heads after they beheaded and ate them.
Again with the baby.
Where's the Israeli Yonomi Park who can like say just made up stuff about the Palestinian people?
Do you guys get suggested a lot of like Zionists to you now in your reels too? Like I get them in my
Yes.
Instagram algorithm. I'm like, I hate you guys. Like, why are you? And it's like the same couple over and over. I don't follow them, but it's like Golda Daphna, Hala Mom, who's like this just very large woman. Like she's so big, and like no hate on like large women, but I'm just like, wow, like it's a very big lady.
Call me naive, but I know that. Just moving on from that. Yeah, so he
Subscribe to
goes-
my Substack.
Yeah, the last thing is he wants everyone to subscribe to my Substack. Don't subscribe to his Substack. Call me naive, but I know deep in the recess of my heart where a broken, fragile faith still exists that a porn star like this exists. Blech. Blech.
There's just so much wrong with this piece that this guy put together. I'm like not even shocked.
Yeah, I'm not shocked either. I mean, look here. I don't have a lot of black friends. It's like, yeah,
You know
because
what?
you're a fucking fascist. You're a fascist Zionist. Of course,
He's a
you don't have
fucking-
a lot of black friends. Like,
He's a fat cuck.
Yeah.
Sorry. That's what he is. Oh my god, he's a fucking rotten piece of shit.
it's like, gee, I wonder why I don't have any friends belonging to minority groups. It's like, because you're a fucking racist. Because you're a racist Zionist piece of shit. Like, that's why. Yeah, bro is. I'm not a big fan of this guy.
Liberals during the apocalypse.
Oh,
Because
dude, that
I
joke-
had seen him like he had like some videos that I had reposted like years back before all this had popped off, and I had no idea like he was a Zionist or whatever. And like I'm sure there's a lot of people who didn't even know they were Zionists until this popped off, and then it became an issue they had to take a stance on. And then they took the fucking wrong one. Can't remember what joke he made. It was something like left leaning. Otherwise, I wouldn't have reposted it. But it was funny. It's just like I guess maybe he's found that he's getting more response. Like that's the thing they say is the disease of all the Twitch streamers and online influencers that take the right turn as well. It's like if you are reacting to what gets you likes and subscribes, you're going to turn right. You just will in the West because the algorithm will push you that way.
Yeah, very true. Circumcision.
He yeah, I don't know. It's the rest of his stuff seems to just be a bunch of
This guy's he's got a fucking unhealthy,
just some
he's
typical
got an unhealthy mind, you know?
How do you spell his handle?
Ranan comedy.
Thank you.
His name's Ranan Hirschberg.
Everyone go and report his account. all you viewers, go find this guy and report him for hate speech.
Yeah, report all of his hate speech posts. Certainly go report In Search of a Porn Star with a Nuanced View. Like he's just being a racist piece of shit to Mia Khalifa. He's also just some fucking massive misogynist saying she should shut up because she was a porn star. Like, okay, come on,
like,
man.
He's like so desperate to like look like such a cool guy too. He's got all these like shots of him with like the pretty lights and like the fucking bisexual lighting and all that other stuff. And it's like, bro,
Here's a
Chris
post about
Rock on
Harry.
blackface.
Is Harry Potter anti-Semitic? To answer the question, yes, it is very anti-Semitic.
Yeah.
I wonder if he'll actually say it is or not.
People think J.K. Rowling's anti-Semitic? Is that a thing?
Yes.
What is it because of the bank people?
Yes.
What are they called?
Goblins?
Okay. See, here's my thing. Isn't it a little anti-Semitic to call that anti-Semitic? Isn't it a little anti-Semitic to be like, well, clearly those goblins are Jews.
What?
Yeah, nah.
Is it anti-Semitic to call?
I think he's saying because you draw in your mind that goblins are Jewish people, right? So you're being anti-Semitic.
Well, yeah,
It's
but
like-
he's completely ignoring the fact that they are straight up just a caricature drawn like an anti-Semitic trope, you know, with the big nose and the grubby hands and the just all that kind of shit, you know, and the fact that they're hoarding all the money and running the banks. Like, I feel like that was very intentional on fucking what's her name?
The movie has a Star of David on the floor of the bank as well.
Really?
Yeah.
No way. Oh no.
Yeah, definitely
What the
find that.
fuck?
2 seconds later.
Dude, there it is. There it is. Oh my god.
Yep.
Oh, that's so fucked up.
Now,
The
see,
movie.
I do have to ask though if that's been photoshopped after the fact, because I've heard that the scene that they filmed that in, it's like a real bank. It was. The
Oh,
building
it's in
was a bank.
Australia. It's in Australia. Cool. Awesome.
No.
Inside Australia
wonderful.
House. From Gringotts Bank to a sacred well, and why London's oldest diplomatic thingy will be whatever after Brexit. Who gives a fuck about Brexit anymore? So there it is. So it's just a
So it does have
six-pointed
that, yeah.
star.
Okay.
It's not really a Star of David because it doesn't have the lines through it. I'm pretty sure the Star of David has to have the lines through it, but geometrically it's the same shape.
Mhm.
So to answer his question in the joke, is Harry Potter anti-Semitic? Yes, obviously. What would you expect from J.K. Rowling, who is a racist transphobe, who had one Chinese character in her whole series of books and their name was Cho Chang?
No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, and the one black character named
Shacklebolt?
Shacklebolt.
God
Like-
damn.
Like,
Wow.
You think of a black guy, and the first thing you think of is slavery.
That's really bad.
So, but
She's writing this book, and she could name them whatever she wanted. She could have pulled some fucking random name out of a hat, but that is the one that she went with. Like, that's so
I mean,
crazy.
I get it's like the thing you're trying to go old timey, right? Like your whole feel and vibe for Harry Potter is old timey, mystical, magical, right? So you're like, let's go back in the past to racism. It's like, why does it? I can see why you would go there if that's where your mind goes when you think old timey, but like, it just ends up like it's like the same thing with this guy's whole comedy bit where he like goes on forever about like Mia Khalifa or whatever. It's like, bro, this is therapy. Like you are just exposing like everything that's going on in your head. I'm sure like people think that's what I'm doing when I just rail on Americans all the time. And it's like, that's cool too. If you just like feel like you're getting a deep insight into my mind where I hate Americans, like that's cool. That's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get you to understand I hate Westoids. Like the bad people.
I do hate Americans, guys.
All those things. It's true.
Yeah. It reminds me of, there's this one creator named like Stanzi or Stanzi. I don't know if you've seen
Potenza, I
her.
love her.
Yeah, dude, she's so funny. She has the videos of where she's playing as J.K. Rowling in her house, and the black mold is like talking to her and like telling her to write all the crazy anti-Semitic bullshit and
What's
all the
her name?
racist, transphobic stuff.
Actually,
Stanzi Potenza.
I'm gonna see if I can pull it up real quick because if I can find the one video, it makes me laugh so much. She does an impression of.
Are we gonna do? Sorry, are we gonna do that and then read the South Africa stuff?
I'd like to. if
Cool.
that's cool.
I have a head. I need to go get a Panadol and stuff. I have a headache.
Yeah.
and A glass of water. Can I go? I'll go do that.
Yeah, I'm gonna search for this video to see if I can find it.
Nice. Yeah, man, she's really funny. I love her stuff. She's got a great sense of humor. I love the one where it's less political, but it's like the girl who's like running around with scissors, and she's like, my hair, I'm in the awkward hair length stage, and a police officer comes up and she's like, put the scissors down, kind of like talking somebody off of a ledge.
Oh
basically.
right, yeah.
Yeah. It's. I'm terrible at rehashing it, but you know.
I don't. You know what? She has so many videos. I don't say way I'm going to find this, but
The black mold ones are so good though.
Is J.K. Rowling a Zionist?
I think
Oh,
so, right?
absolutely, absolutely. I am like 99% sure.
Yep, she's a Zionist. Yeah, I just looked it up. Cool. That's weird. That's weird how Zionists are okay with having actual anti-Semites support their side.
Hey.
Let's see. How do I?
Is this the black mold?
So this is my favorite.
This freeze frame is
Potenza video.
awesome, by the way.
I love this. So this is Let me know if you can hear it.
Have you ever thought about like dabbling in roleplay?
Like, what were you thinking?
No.
Like, teacher student?
So cliche.
Played out,
Yes.
right? Boring.
Exactly. Maybe like you're a lord and I'm like this cockney peasant.
Ooh, okay. Okay, maybe I'm like punishing you for stealing.
Okay. Let's do it.
Foolish peasant, you dare steal from me?
I played with thee, me lord.
Oh,
I'm
wow.
but a lowly commoner with nothing but scraps to
But...
Might perchance there be another way for me to receive
Cloak.
my punishment.
Are you turned on right now?
I've never been a concubine before. For you, me lord, I could be.
Oh, babe, I'm sorry. This is horrendous.
Really? I felt so in character.
I know.
Okay, let's try something different. You're a famous Hollywood actor.
Okay.
And I am Moira Rose from Schitt's Creek.
Wait, no.
Take your pants off, sweetheart. I'm ready to get penetrated. Babe, have you ever thought about like
Oh my
dabbling?
god. She's so
It's very
funny. Oh yeah.
The
That's it, man. It would be great to have her on at some point. Holy shit. If any of
mean,
us can ever fucking
if we can get to that level, be able to like get her to see a DM from us, yeah, that'd be cool. We'll see.
yeah. Oh man. That's so funny.
Yeah, I'm literally like tearing up, like the fucking Moira from Schitt's Creek impression at the end there. She's like, "Take your pants off, darling." I've been doing that for 2
Moira-
years. Like,
Moira is so. I love that show so much.
I've never been
Oh.
penetrated before.
all right, let
She's
me
my
find this,
favorite character in fiction ever because it's like she's like the perfect what not to do as a parent. Like,
Oh,
she's she's such a bad mother. It's so funny.
I think Annie Murphy in Schitt's Creek might be like one of the hottest characters I've ever seen in a TV show. Every time I watch the show, I'm
Is
like,
Annie-
oh,
Who's Annie Murphy?
she's like the sister in the show.
Oh, damn! She's nearly 40. That's cray. Is Schitt's Creek still going?
Nah,
Yeah, no, that's like a 90s or early 2000s show, right?
No, 2015 to 2020.
Oh, I'm totally wrong.
Damn. No, so that means she was like, she would have been my age when the show started, and then in her, damn, it's crazy to think people are like in their 20s, and then like a couple years pass and they're in their 30s, and it's like, damn, time to be going forwards.
A couple years pass and I'm already fucking 55, you know?
Ask Mike about that. You can
It'll happen to
I mean,
you.
I'll tell you right now, the real mindfuck that has set in for me between your age and my age now is when you start to realize how fast a year goes by each time it does it, because it happens faster every time. Like, people say that in that weird way, but it actually does, because it's like, if you're like 9 years old, a year is like a huge amount of time compared to like the amount of life you've lived so far. Whereas if you're like 20 years old, a year is only 1/20th of your life. And now when you're 40, a year is 1/40th. So it just goes by much faster every single time. And like, it's like exponential. It's like wild to feel it happen.
That's why I do a lot of mindfulness stuff, so it goes less quick. I've also noticed that the more unhappy I am and the more suffering that's happening in my life,
The slower it
the
goes, buddy.
slower time goes. So like, what I've done is just had a series of crises start at the beginning of every year
Yeah.
that, that potentially ruin my life, and time goes slower. So that's what I'm doing. I don't know what the next crisis for next year will be, but I'll set one up. We'll have it all set up and ready to go.
All that I just said has gone out the window for 2024, because that was a long fucking year, and it still is. Oh my god, 2025 is just going to be even better, right? It's just going to be even better.
Yep. That's why I just did a bunch of drugs.
Nice.
Recommend it.
Nice. I don't know if I can keep that in.
Capitalism can never stay home. It goes abroad. The ordinary people simply paid the cost of empire.
The period after the end of the Second Boer War, but before the beginning of apartheid, from 1902 to 1948, was marked by significant economic developments and colonial expansion in South Africa, as well as the entrenchment of racial segregation. As we've mentioned, the discovery of gold and diamonds had already transformed South Africa into a major mining hub. After the Boer War, British control over the region allowed them to consolidate and expand mining operations, particularly in the Transvaal. The mining sector became the backbone of South Africa's economy, attracting foreign investment and driving urbanization. Colonial rule was given perceptible effect by policemen and soldiers, administrators, tax collectors, traders, prospectors, and labor recruiters. Railroads connected the coast with the interior, opening up new markets and releasing new sources of labor. New boundaries were drawn that lasted beyond the colonial period, and the Zambezi became the frontier between the settler South and the quote tropical dependencies of East and Central Africa. Although Nyasaland, or Malawi, and northern Rhodesia, or Zambia, occupied a middle ground. The exploitation of minerals, the capitalization of settler agriculture, and the establishment of manufacturing industries drew Africans into the world economy as workers and peasants, transforming class structures and political alignments and shifting the division of labor between men and women. Previously male occupations, such as hunting and warfare, declined. Indigenous production of non-agricultural commodities from cotton to iron suffered from the competition of cheap, mass-produced imports. The costs of colonialism were unequally distributed. In the areas of white colonization, the BSAC and the colonial powers supported the settlers. Elsewhere, African ruling elites were able to strike compromises with their new overlords. On the reserves and protectorates of southern Africa, chiefs and hereditary headmen still controlled their followings, although their authority was eroded as they became appointees of the colonial authorities. Again, the process varied from area to area. Whereas colonial authorities initially attempted to destroy the overarching powers of the African kings and paramounts who had led the military resistance to colonialism and symbolized the cohesion of their people, the role of intermediate chiefs in providing a cheap administrative infrastructure was soon recognized. Many Afrikaners also experienced a period of rapid change. In 1886, the South African Republic was still a pre-industrial state controlled by a livestock-owning elite. By 1910, it was dominated by mining capital and formed the hub of the industrializing subcontinent. The injection of international capital, the South African War, inflated land prices, and imperial social engineering transformed Afrikaner society as painfully and perhaps more completely than African society. For Afrikaners too, there were winners and losers. And then we get to the growth of racism. Some blacks and whites, particularly those who had been educated or had prior experience, were able to take advantage of economic opportunities developing in new towns and markets. Yet for the growing numbers of mission-educated Africans and colored, and for Indian communities in Southern Africa, the period was probably one of regression rather than advance. European racist ideology replaced an older tradition in the Cape of social dominance through economic control. Strident settler demands for urban segregation classified even wealthy Indian merchants as, quote, uncivilized natives. Indian immigration into all the southern African colonies was restricted, and in Natal, a number of anti-Indian discriminatory measures followed the grant of responsible government in 1893. In the Cape, institutions became increasingly segregated. While the establishment of new colonial states contributed to the creation of new forms of national consciousness, black hopes of inclusion into the wider society were dashed by the South Africa Act of 1909 and by the establishment of settler-only representative institutions elsewhere. White racism, though still embryonic outside South Africa, fueled African nationalism throughout the region. Racially discriminatory policies were prompted by settlers' fears of competition from the blacks and the growth of black class consciousness. They were given an intellectual underpinning by anthropologists and administrators fearful of rapid social change. Before 1945, the ideology of segregation was espoused by virtually all the governments of the region and by most whites regardless of political persuasion. Segregation had different meanings for different groups, but throughout Southern Africa, it unified contradictory white interests under a single political slogan, buttressed white power, and protected white workers and farmers, and attempted to diffuse black militancy at a time of urbanization and social change. For blacks, segregation meant exclusion from citizenship, incorporation into a restricted and racially segmented labor market based on the use of migrant labor, government control of movement, urban residence, and trade union organization, the consolidation of the authority of the chiefs, and a recognition or invention of a black ethnic identity in the African reserves. In 1910, the British unified 4 colonies, Cape Colony, Natal, Transvaal, and Orange Free State, into the Union of South Africa. This dominion was granted self-governance under white rule, with Afrikaners and English-speaking whites sharing power. Indigenous Africans were excluded from political participation, and during World War I, South Africa annexed German Southwest Africa, or modern-day Namibia, further expanding its colonial reach. Racial segregation became increasingly institutionalized during this period. Laws restricted African land ownership, movement, and political rights while reserving economic opportunities for whites, laying the groundwork for apartheid.
Gosh, doesn't that sound awfully familiar to what was going on in the United States? I mean, like, oh my God.
Yeah, it's so wild how you have like these entire systems of like codified racism where you legally prevent entire groups of people from owning land, from owning any property, from getting ahead, doing anything to be able to like build themselves up, let alone create generational wealth. And then you have whites getting such a head start. And then once you remove those things, even the talk of some kind of reparations or recompense for any of that harm done is out of the question among the white society that still obviously acts in a very systemically racist way.
Mm-hmm. It's fucked up.
And this is every Western society. Like you could just apply this to literally every white country.
Yep. Every settler colonial society, every white country, they do the same thing where they just strip the rights of basically all minorities.
Yeah. And speaking of another white colonial state, we will do probably a whole series on Rhodesia, but to go on here, efforts to expand the Union by incorporating southern Rhodesia, now Zimbabwe, failed after a 1922 referendum in which Rhodesians opted for responsible government rather than union with South Africa. This era set the stage for apartheid by consolidating white economic and political dominance while systematically marginalizing African populations through legal and economic means. And now that we've discussed the beginnings of apartheid, we can also discuss the resistance to it. A key figure was, of course, Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela was born on July 18, 1918, in the village of Mvezo in Umtata, then part of South Africa's Cape Province. He was given the forename Rolihlahla, a Xhosa term colloquially meaning troublemaker, and in later years became known by his clan name, Madiba.
That's crazy. He was given the name Troublemaker, and then he overthrew apartheid. It's like, hell yeah, dude.
Kind of cool.
Bro was ordained at birth to overthrow apartheid.
Plus 1,000 aura points for Mandela.
His patrilineal great-grandfather, Nubenkuka, was ruler of the Thembu Kingdom in the Transkeian territories of South Africa's modern Eastern Cape Province. One of Nubenkuka's sons, named Mandela, was Nelson's grandfather and the source of his surname. Because Mandela was the king's child by a wife of the Iziba clan, a so-called left-hand house, the descendants of this cadet branch of the royal family were morganatic, ineligible to inherit the throne, but recognized as hereditary royal counselors. Nelson Mandela's father, Godla Henry Mafaka-Nizwa Mandela, was a local chief and counselor to the monarch. He was appointed to the position in 1915, after his predecessor was accused of corruption by a governing white magistrate. In 1926, Godla was also sacked for corruption, but Nelson was told that his father had lost his job for standing up to the magistrate's unreasonable demands. A devotee of the god Kamata, Gada was a polygamist with 4 wives, 4 sons, and 9 daughters, who lived in different villages. Nelson's mother... I mean, kind of baller, not gonna lie. Sounds expensive, though.
Yeah.
Nelson's mother was Gada's 3rd wife, Nosakeni Fani, daughter of Nkdama of the Right-Hand House and a member of the Amapemvu clan of the Xhosa. And this is a quote from Mandela in 1994. "No one in my family had ever attended school. On the first day of school, my teacher, Miss Mndingane, gave each of us an English name. This was the custom among Africans in those days and was undoubtedly due to the British bias of our education. That day, Miss Mndingane told me that my new name was Nelson. Why this particular name, I have no idea." It's just kind of random like that.
That's crazy.
I mean, that's always the case with colonized people and like colonizers just giving them names like they're naming their pets or whatever. It's terrible.
Yep. Or like in the United States, you know, you've got the kind of boarding schools that they would send Native Americans to and have them take on like English or German or whatever names, you know, colonizer names, just to shut them down from their family as much as they possibly can, you know?
Same thing with the stolen generation in Australia is an attempt at cultural genocide and regular genocide as well, where their names and their languages were not taught to them and they had to adopt sort of Western names.
Yep.
Yeah, in
It's
fact,
rough.
I haven't even looked into if any residential schools were used in South Africa, but that is another familiar colonial tactic, which is to separate children from their native families, quote unquote, civilize them by teaching them English and enforcing Christianity upon them. And then as we've seen in recent years, they're getting uncovered to have mass graves accompanying them every time. So that's another aspect of genocidal colonialism.
It's crazy.
So Mandela later stated that his early life was dominated by traditional Xhosa custom and taboo. He grew up with 2 sisters in his mother's kraal in the village of Kunu, where he tended herds as a cattle boy and spent much time outside with other boys. Both his parents were illiterate, but his mother, being a devout Christian, sent him to a local Methodist school when he was about 7. When Mandela was about 9, his father came to stay at Kunu, where he died of an undiagnosed ailment that Mandela believed to be lung disease. Feeling cut adrift, he later said that he inherited his father's, quote, proud rebelliousness and stubborn sense of fairness. Mandela's mother took him to the great place at Maqhekezweni, where he was entrusted to the guardianship of the Thembu region, Chief Jonkintaba Dalindyebo. Although he did not see his mother again for many years, Mandela felt that Jonkintaba and his wife, Noengland, treated him as their own child, raising him alongside their children. I don't know if I made this comment about this when we got to this before, but Mandela's mother's name is No England. Her first name is No England, just all one word. And I think I hope that it just means that. I hope that they just named her that because they hate English people in England, and I think that's great. But I don't think it's probably that. That just sounds too
crazy.
Awesome.
Yeah.
It's too good to be
no
true.
white people. No white people.
No cracker. My name is No Cracker Mandela. As Mandela attended church services every Sunday with his guardians, Christianity became a significant part of his life. He attended a Methodist mission school located next to the palace, where he studied English, Xhosa, history, and geography. He developed a love of African history, listening to the tales told by elderly visitors to the palace, and was influenced by the anti-imperialist rhetoric of a visiting chief, Joyi. Nevertheless, at the time he considered the European colonizers not as oppressors, but as benefactors who had brought education and other benefits to southern Africa. Boo. Well, we all learn. He's like a teenager. What can you do?
Yeah.
It's one thing to think that at 14. It's a whole nother thing to think that when you're in your 30s and you're signing up to like be in the military. You're like wearing Oakleys in your truck and making videos.
They never grew up.
Age 16, his cousin Justice and several other boys traveled to Taihalarha to undergo the Uwaluko circumcision ritual that symbolically marked their transition from boys to men. Afterwards, he was given the name Dalabunga. Circumcision sucks regardless, but especially if you're a teenager and you gotta remember it. Ugh.
Oh my god.
No thank you.
Yeah.
Intending to gain skills needed to become a privy councillor for the Thembu Royal House, Mandela began his secondary education in 1933 at Clarkbury Methodist High School in Nkobo, a Western-style institution that was the largest school for black Africans in Thembuland. Made to socialize with other students on an equal basis, he claimed that he lost his, quote, stuck-up attitude, becoming best friends with a girl for the first time. He began playing sports and developed his lifelong love of gardening. So he stopped being a gamer and started being a Chad. He completed his junior certificate in 2 years, and in 1937 he moved to Healdtown, the Methodist college in Fort Beaufort, attended by most Tembu royalty, including justice. The headmaster emphasized the superiority of European culture and government, but Mandela became increasingly interested in native African culture, making his first non-Xhosa friend, a speaker of Sotho, and coming under the influence of one of his favorite teachers, a Xhosa who broke taboo by marrying a Sotho. Mandela spent much of his spare time at Hilltown as a long-distance runner and boxer, and in his second year he became a prefect. In 1939, with Junkin Taba's backing, Mandela began work on a BA degree at the University of Fort Hare, an elite black institution of approximately 150 students in Alice, Eastern Cape. He studied English, anthropology, politics, quote, native administration, and Roman Dutch law in his first year, desiring to become an interpreter or clerk in the Native Affairs Department. Mandela stayed in the Wesley House dormitory, befriending his own kinsman K.D. Mantanzima, as well as Oliver Tambo, who became a close friend and comrade for decades to come. He took up ballroom dancing, performed in a drama society play about Abraham Lincoln, and gave Bible classes in the local community as part of the Student Christian Association. Although he had friends who held connections to the African National Congress, the ANC, who wanted South Africa to be independent of the British Empire, Mandela avoided any involvement with the nascent movement and became a vocal supporter of the British war effort when the Second World War broke out. At the end of his first year, he became involved in a Students' Representative Council, SRC, boycott against the quality of food, for which he was suspended from the university. He never returned to complete his degree. So he was already an early activist, and a committed one. Can you imagine getting that hyped up in a boycott over the quality of the food that you end up not finishing your degree?
That's wild.
Mandela began studying law at the University of Witwatersrand, where he was the only black African student and faced racism. There he befriended liberal and communist European, Jewish, and Indian students, among them Joe Slovo and Ruth First. Becoming increasingly politicized, Mandela marched in August 1943 in support of a successful bus boycott to reverse fare rises. Joining the ANC, he was increasingly influenced by Sisulu, spending time with other activists at Sisulu's Orlando house, including his old friend Oliver Tambo. In 1943, Mandela met Anton Lembede, an ANC member affiliated with the Africanist branch of African nationalism, which was virulently opposed to a racially united front against colonialism and imperialism or to an alliance with the communists. Despite his friendships with non-blacks and communists, Mandela embraced Lembede's views, believing that black Africans should be entirely independent in the struggle for political self-determination. Deciding on the need for a youth wing to mass mobilize Africans in opposition to their subjugation, Mandela was among a delegation that approached ANC President Alfred Bitini Zuma on the subject at his home in Sophiatown. The African National Congress Youth League, ANCYL, was founded on Easter Sunday in 1944 in the Bantu Men's Social Center, with Lembede as president and Mandela as a member of its executive committee. In July 1947, Mandela rushed Lembede, who was ill, to a hospital where he died. He was succeeded as ANCYL president by the more moderate Peter Mda, who agreed to cooperate with communists and non-blacks, appointing Mandela ANCYL secretary. Mandela disagreed with Mda's approach, and in December 1947 supported an unsuccessful measure to expel communists from the ANCYL, considering their ideology un-African. In 1947, Mandela was elected to the executive committee of the ANC's Transvaal province branch, serving under regional president C.S. Ramahano. When Ramahano acted against the wishes of the committee by cooperating with Indians and communists, Mandela was one of those who forced his resignation. In the South African general election in 1948, in which only whites were permitted to vote, the Afrikaner-dominated Herenigde Nasionale Party under Daniel Francois Malan took power, soon uniting with the Afrikaner Party to form the National Party. Openly racialist, the party codified and expanded racial segregation with new apartheid legislation.
Oh, cool. Awesome.
Yeah, this is like the beginnings of apartheid.
Yeah, we're the extra racist party. Vote for us, and then everyone voted for them. Also, I'd just like to say something about how basically looks like Mandela kicked out all the communists from the ANC, or didn't allow them to be openly communist. I'm sure there were plenty who had to pretend they weren't. But you can look with the benefit of hindsight sort of how the end of apartheid turned out for South Africa. While it is better, much, much better, the segregation of wealth remained. White people still are the wealthiest people in South Africa, despite being a small minority of people. Black people have not very high standards of living in South Africa compared to white people. You can look at aerial photographs of South Africa where you have suburbs that look like a suburb in America or any other Western country with a fence. And then right next to that fence is a whole shanty town.
This
Yeah.
is life under communism.
Yeah.
Those kinds of memes.
Yeah. So it's very interesting because it's like what communist revolutionaries knew and Mandela would have benefited from. That here I am, I'm just some fucking white guy saying what to do. But like we can look at history and communist revolutions, they actually just took the wealth from the bourgeoisie. They just took it. And they took it and appropriated it for the state and the people. Mandela didn't do that as part of his and that I guess that's the inherent issue with having a nationalist movement rather than a communist movement is you might overthrow the racial segregation in law, but you will still have racialized segregation through economic material conditions and the economy of the country unless you radically shift that as well. And you just have to he should have just taken all the fucking money off the white people. I'm sorry.
And Mao found that you'll even have these social ramifications left over if you don't have a cultural revolution as well. Like there's a lot of levels to this stuff. There's base, there's superstructure. And this is not, Jared, you're not saying this because, we are tankies and we just think we're right about everything. It's like, this is literally just what history proves. And it's not that like the communists are able to do these things better because they're communists or because they're Marxists or because that stuff is inherently better. It's just because they have a more effective vision. It tackles all angles of this, the economic, the material, the social, and it's more effective, and that's why they have to make you so scared of it.
Yep, absolutely.
Getting back to Mandela here. So, gaining increasing influence in the ANC, Mandela and his party cadre allies began advocating direct action against apartheid, such as boycotts and strikes, influenced by the tactics already employed by South Africa's Indian community. Zuma did not support these measures and was removed from the presidency in a vote of no confidence, replaced by James Moroka and a more militant executive committee containing Sisulu, Mda, Tambo, and Godfrey Piche. Mandela later related that he and his colleagues had, quote, guided the ANC to a more radical and revolutionary path. Having devoted his time to politics, Mandela failed his final years at Witwatersrand 3 times. He was ultimately denied his degree in December 1949.
Wouldn't have failed if he were a communist. Sorry.
That's good. Mandela took Zuma's place on the ANC National Executive in March 1950, and that same year was elected national president of the ANCYL. In March, the Defend Free Speech Convention was held in Johannesburg, bringing together African, Indian, and communist activists to call a May Day general strike in protest against apartheid and white minority rule. Mandela opposed the strike because it was multiracial and not ANC-led, but a majority of black workers took part, resulting in increased police repression and the introduction of the Suppression of Communism Act in 1950, affecting the actions of all protest groups. I like that.
That's
a Suppression of Communism Act that affects all protest groups. Isn't that convenient?
Yep.
At the ANC National Conference of December 1951, he continued arguing against a racially united front, but was outvoted. Man, Mandela really does not want help from the other races. It's wild. I can understand, like, communists are very anti-class collaboration. Like, they won't allow people in if you're, like, a small business owner, a landlord, some kind of, like, boss or somebody in the owning class. They will not let you into your org for good reason, but, like, Mandela's really got it hard on the race lines. He will not let go of this shit. So thereafter, Mandela rejected Lembede's Africanism and embraced the idea of a multiracial front against apartheid. So this is when he finally, I guess, gives up on it. Influenced by friends like Moses Kotane and by the Soviet Union's support for wars of national liberation, his mistrust of communism broke down and he began reading literature by Karl Marx, Vladimir Lenin, and Mao Zedong. Hell yeah, dude.
Hell yeah, dude.
Eventually embracing the Marxist philosophy of dialectical materialism. Hell yeah, air horns for that shit.
Nice. You would need air quote because he didn't appropriate the wealth of the whites, which he should have done.
I mean, he obviously did not implement these things. He just started to read it at least, it's a step in the right direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was getting his theory brain on.
But one of the reasons he didn't appropriate the wealth.
Mandela found bread tube. Sorry.
Yeah. One of the reasons he didn't I've heard that one of the reasons he didn't appropriate the wealth is because they were fearful of reprisals, white reprisals. So they thought they would let the white people maintain their wealth.
Yeah.
And yeah, that was the main reason. But
very liberal.
Yeah.
I don't think you need to compromise with people you just kicked out of power.
Yeah.
No.
Absolutely.
Yeah, if anything, the lesson needs to be more heavy-handed, be more ruthless against the people who have already taken things. Like the lower classes, like the working class people, just need to be more confident in their ability, in their morally correct position that they have been wronged and they have been aggressed upon. And they need to be more ruthless and heavy-handed in their, recompense, basically.
Yeah, we need like what would Lenin do bracelets.
I'll read a couple more paragraphs and then I'll cut it in just a second. Commenting on communism, he later stated that he, quote, found himself strongly drawn to the idea of a classless society, which, to his mind, was similar to traditional African culture where life was shared and communal. Yeah, hell of a thought.
Yeah, dude.
In April 1952, Mandela began work at the H.M. Basner law firm, which was owned by a communist, although his increasing commitment to work and activism meant he spent less time with his family. It's hard not to take a tangent on a law firm owned by a communist, but whatever.
Yeah.
In 1952, the ANC began preparation for a joint defiance campaign against apartheid with Indian and communist groups, founding a national voluntary board to recruit volunteers. The campaign was designed to follow the path of nonviolent resistance influenced by Mahatma Gandhi. Some supported this for ethical reasons, but Mandela instead considered it pragmatic. At a Durban rally on June 22nd, Mandela addressed an assembled crowd of 10,000 people, initiating the campaign protest for which he was arrested and briefly interned in Marshall Square Prison. These events established Mandela as one of the best-known black political figures in South Africa. Alright, so I'm going to bookmark it there.
Nice.
Alright.
Okay, well done.
Well, thank you guys. I'll end the recording, and I will see you in the Discord as usual.
All right.
You got the love, you got the power, but you just don't understand. Girl, you've been charging by the hour for your love. I'll try to show how much I love you, still believe